What happens when organized criminals don't just commit a crime, but systematically destroy the entire economic heart of a community?
It's a terrifying question.
And today we are doing a deep dive into exactly that. We're looking at the January 2026 massacre in Kasuwan-Daji, Nigeria, but we're trying to look beyond the horrific headline. We want to get into the mechanics of the crime.
That's right. And we have to begin by just acknowledging the scale of the human cost here. The police confirmed at least 30 people were killed in that attack in Niger State.
At least 30.
At least. But residents and the Catholic Church actually reported much higher tolls. They're estimating up to 40, maybe even more individuals murdered. This wasn't a quick raid. It was devastating.
And our mission today is to use your sources to unpack how this single violent event, how it reveals a much larger profit-driven security crisis. I mean, this is a massive organized business model that thrives on near total impunity. It's not just random banditry, is it? It feels like sophisticated economic warfare.
The word sophisticated is absolutely key here. The violence is calculated. It's a means to a cold, hard economic end. They are not just terrorizing people. They are, in effect, erasing the competition and setting up their own financial structure.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's call this first phase the strategic erasure of Kasuwan-Daji. The attackers weren't just looking for a quick score. They were executing a plan for maximum long-term disruption.
And the timing is really the first clue. This attack was planned for a Saturday evening. Specifically, and this is quoted, during market activities.
Right. The busiest time.
Exactly. Why then? Because that exact moment ensures the highest concentration of everything. Trading activity, goods, cash, and most critically, all the people who make that economy run. They struck the village's financial pulse precisely when it was strongest.
And the methods they used, they reflect that same intent. It wasn't just about the people. It was about destroying the town's ability to ever recover. The sources describe it as a scorched earth strategy.
Yeah, they systematically torched the village market. They burned down shops, surrounding buildings, just leveled the commercial infrastructure.
And this is where the precision of their planning becomes, frankly, chilling. Eyewitnesses reported seeing smoke rising as the whole commercial center was just razed with. But the sources confirmed the gangs didn't just bring it all down right away.
No, they didn't. They first looted the shops, and they were specifically targeting food supplies and other crucial goods.
Wait, hold on. So they're not just grabbing cash and valuables. They're treating this civilian market like a logistical depot, their own personal grocery store before they burn it to the ground.
That's it exactly. It's a dual-purpose operation. First, you terrorize the population and destroy their economic base. But before you do that, you strip the target of anything valuable and usable that you need to sustain your next operation.
So they're literally provisioning themselves for the next few weeks.
Yes.
Using the goods they stole from the very community they're in the process of destroying.
It's methodical. It's efficient. And that's a simultaneous extraction and destruction is what's so terrifying.
And the brutality. It was beyond indiscriminate. The reports say people were shot while they were just doing business. Others were rounded up, tied with ropes, and slaughtered like goats right there in the market area.
And the whole thing lasted for nearly 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just think about that duration.
Yeah.
3 hours of this.
The immediate consequence, then, is just a catastrophic collapse of civic life.
Completely. Survivors fled. They left the town, the market areas. Everything was largely deserted. And that, of course, resulted in the immediate total cessation of all economic interaction. It's the definition of economic paralysis, not just a temporary shutdown.
Which brings us to our next point. This was a deliberate dismantling. If the market was the village's heart, they didn't just stop it, they crushed it to make sure it wouldn't restart.
And the so what here is crucial. This level of violence guarantees long-term paralysis because it attacks the very source of legitimate wealth. And when we look at the research from nearby communities in Niger State facing similar insurgencies, we see the hard data. We see just how complete this collapse of productive activity is.
The numbers are staggering.
They are. I mean, they fundamentally upend how people make a living. Before this insurgency hit these rural households, 97.2% of them were involved in arable farming.
Almost everybody.
Pretty much everybody. Afterwards, that number plummeted to 35.9%.
So you're saying nearly 2/3 of the entire farming base just vanishes. What is the ripple effect of that on food supply, on poverty, on just basic stability?
The ripple effect is total disruption. And look at livestock farming. That's often the only way people can store wealth in these rural areas. Participation was at 69.7% before the crisis.
Okay.
It dropped severely to only 4.2% after.
4.2%.
That's a 95% wipeout of the livestock economy. This is not accidental collateral damage. It's a systemic financial attack on the ability of people to sustain themselves.
And the sources confirm this wasn't an unfortunate side effect. The violence actively restricts the marketplaces. It forces traders to just abandon their livelihoods.
Right. The farming households, the backbone of the whole economy, they cite two things as the most significant factors: the destruction of their farmlands, of course, and the restriction on marketplaces. That's the key.
So even if you can grow something, you can't sell it.
And you can't buy what you need. And it's the farmers themselves, male and female farmers, the youth. They are seen as economically viable targets. They aren't just victims of violence, they're assets to be extracted. The system is designed to break the local economy so that the only one left standing is the gang's own criminal enterprise.
It's a direct assault on the economic sovereignty of the community. So if the goal is to dismantle the economy and extract ransom, the critical question becomes, how? How are these groups allowed to operate with this level of success?
The key is a systemic security void. They leverage geography and state failure. Expansive, unmonitored reserves. The sources mention areas like the National Park Forest near the Kabi district. These places act as perfect logistical safe havens.
So they can stage attacks and then just disappear.
They stage attacks, retreat easily,
Yeah.
and are described as being nearly unreachable.
But these aren't just temporary hideouts, right? The sources suggest they're more like entrenched bandit territories.
They are. The control these groups exert is so established that victims are sometimes coerced into working on bandit-controlled farms and mining sites within these sanctuaries.
That's not just crime anymore. That's asserting control over land, resources, and labor.
It's proof of a terrifying level of parallel governance. And this impunity, it's reinforced by systemic state failure. I mean, the sources are full of details about security in action. Gunmen were spotted lurking in neighboring communities a week before the Kasuwan-Daji assault.
A week before.
A full week.
Wow.
And yet no preventive measures were deployed to secure that market.
And during the attack itself.
The raid continued for nearly 3 hours without any intervention. Imagine being a resident for those 3 hours, knowing help is only miles away, but it's just not coming.
And residents later insisted no security had arrived, even by the next day. That directly contradicts the official claims.
It does, and that inaction is the crucial commodity these gangs trade on. It confirms their authority, not the state's, and it allows them to target these remote communities that lack a government presence, creating this perfect security vacuum.
So when the state fails to protect its own citizens and its own territory for 3 hours during a massacre, it basically creates the ideal environment for this kidnapping enterprise to boom. Okay, let's put a dollar sign on that boom. We need to quantify this organized enterprise because an operation on this scale needs capital. It needs reinvestment.
And the financial stats show it's an industrial-scale operation. Between July 2024 and June 2025, so just 1 year, kidnappers collected at least 2.57 billion naira in ransom.
And just to give that some context for you listening, that translates to approximately 1.66 million US dollars.
Just 1 year.
$1.66 million flowing directly into criminal hands in a single year. That's a massive amount of unmonitored capital. Does that money fundamentally change their operational capability?
Oh, absolutely. That kind of financial yield allows the gangs to reinvest. They buy more sophisticated weapons, better communications, better logistical support, which in turn allows them to inflate future ransom demands. It's a self-financing terror mechanism that just scales up with every success.
And they maximize their leverage with these mass abductions. They raise the stakes dramatically. The raid in Kasuwan-Daji happened not long after the kidnapping of over 300 school children and teachers from a Catholic school nearby.
Yes, in Papiri in November. These high-profile mass attacks are part of the business strategy.
So it's a known tactic.
A common one. Mass abductions, which are defined as involving more than 5 victims, make up about 23% of all kidnapping cases. And they are overwhelmingly concentrated in these northern states. These large operations maximize fear and financial yield at the same time. It gives them immense bargaining power.
But it's not just the ransoms. They've established a system of, well, enforced taxation. This confirms that parallel power structure you mentioned.
It does. Insurgents collect taxes from a massive proportion of residents. One source reported that 81% of respondents confirmed this was happening to them.
81%.
Think about that. When 8 out of 10 people in the community are paying tribute to a criminal organization just to exist, that organization is asserting revenue collection. It's asserting governmental control.
It's completely undermining the legitimate state authority.
Exactly. It confirms that this state weakness guarantees their impunity in these vast, ungoverned territories.
So we've established that this threat is highly sophisticated, it's rooted in the systematic destruction of economic life, and it thrives precisely because of a systemic government failure to assert control over its own land. The local population is effectively abandoned.
They're abandoned to organizations that function as a criminal government.
Yes. So if we connect all this to the bigger picture, this situation has to raise an important question.
It does. It raises a question about national integrity and sovereignty. The sources show that external actors, like the U.S., are increasingly framing this violence as persecution and threatening intervention. So when a sovereign state struggles this dramatically to protect its own citizens, to assert control over its own territory, what is the long-term cost to that nation's sovereignty? And does its internal weakness essentially invite external actors to define and then intervene in its crisis?
Yeah.
That's something for you to consider as you process this deep dive.